I'll declare our Future-Proof Public Transport Subcommittee meeting open. And I'll ask Phil in terms of opening Karakia.
Thank you, Chair. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, mā kina kina ki uta, mā taratara ki tai, ehi ake ana a te kura, he tio, he huka, he hau hu, tihei mauri ora.
Thank you. Dave, health and safety statement, please.
This is a new addition to the agendas just for clarity for all of the members, what to do in the event of an emergency and so forth. I'm happy for it to be taken as read, and if anyone has any questions, fire away.
Okay, no questions. 3, Dave, just outline. Apologies are on the screen in terms of Maxine and Angus. We have a mover and seconder for those, please. Thanks, Angela. Seconded, Mayor Adrian. I'll put that. All those in favour, against, carried. In terms of the agenda, there are no changes to that. So I'm happy to move that we confirm the agenda before us, seconded by Angela. I'll put that. All those in favour, against, carried. Are there any disclosures of interest from members in terms of matters on the agenda? There are none. We move to the public forum, and got Chris Keegan, Deputy Principal of Fairfield Intermediate School, who's coming in online. Who is not online. So we might come back to the public forum in due course. So we'll move to the confirmation and receipt of minutes of our previous meeting. And that commences on page 17 of our agenda. I can have someone to move and second receipt of those. Thanks, Eugene. Someone to second. Angela, are there any matters in terms of corrections or amendments to those minutes? There are not. It's been moved and seconded. I'll put that. All those in favour, against, carried. So we'll move on to the business contained in the agenda, and I'm at item 8.1, which is commences on page 23, the ratings review update. Sarah is online. Welcome back, Sarah.
Hello.
Over to you. In terms of
such a strange thing. Just to give you an update, I will take the papers as read. There is one update to this paper which I need to highlight, which is in paragraph 11. We say that no decision has been made at the time of writing the paper on whether to consult for the LTP. So paragraph 11, a decision has been made on that now, and the decision is that we will go out to consult within the Waikato Regional Council LTP on the options that are listed below that paragraph. So option 1 is moving to a sort of direct model where people within a certain radius walk distance and within 5K's drive up distance pay towards the costs of PT in their area. The second option is that people within 5 kilometres drive up and everybody in each district pays towards that cost within their area, with the metro area carve out reflecting that the metro area has a significant forward plan of investment for PT and has a higher level of service as well. So the metro area pays for the metro area. And then finally, the third option, which is one that we have to include, which is the status quo, which is we continue to just rate the areas that we rate and we don't rate outside of those areas. The preferred option for the LTP is option 2, which includes the metro area, as this we believe is a fairer and more direct, a fairer and more reflective approach to benefits and costs of PT within the region. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Sarah. I'll open it up for any questions or comments in terms of Angela. Will you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Thank you. I'll keep it brief. If I could just invite our partner councils to, submit. That would be really helpful. Thank you.
So,
Adrian.
yeah, I just obviously have to ask the one question just around the formulas, and obviously in the paper you've provided Morrinsville and obviously the cost for the Morrinsville residents. What does it look like for the likes of Matamata with two services, the lower level of service?
So I think in the attachment at the back, I think they pay a much lower cost. So the whole approach to this has been to be really clear about cost allocation to begin with, and that's related to level of service, so that we identify areas that are not receiving as much PT, and we make an adjustment to reflect that, so that when we then apply the direct and indirect benefit approach, the cost allocation is about right. And we've been really careful around that, particularly for Matamata. Option 1 is interesting because it basically spikes the rates to anybody who's within 800 metres of a bus stop quite considerably across all areas. And that's why I'm not a fan of that option 1, because it doesn't reflect what we do currently, which is for Matamata and those areas we apply the rate by statistical area, and then we apply a district-wide component alongside that. So option 2 is likely to reflect more of what we currently do. The reality is there's no change to the money across all the options, because the cost remains the same across all the options. It's just how it's distributed.
Sarah.
Quick question in response to Councillor Angela. When do we need to get back by for ensuring that our councils respond with enthusiasm?
So for HCC, we've already spoken to your staff, and they have already indicated that they will be putting a submission together, which they'll put in front of one of your committees. Our LTP goes out for consultation. I think, is it April? Phil might know. Can you help me out?
It's in March. So
It's in March, sorry. So what we'll do is we'll be sending an email around to your teams anyway to just remind them to submit on that. We'll also be sending a section out, a comm section out to those councils that don't currently rate for, to include something in their LTP that links them to this consultation too. For you guys, it's slightly different because you already are rated by WRC, so we're expecting submissions only from you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Eugene.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, look, we support this regional road rating system. I mean, we've been thinking, what's the best option? The corridor option 2 is probably, the one that'll be sustainable for our communities. We've got some, deprivation issues with in some of those areas, etc. So Option 2 is looking to 1, but we will be submitting and be coming through to our Sustainability and Wellbeing Committee, so we can get on with that. And so good work.
Anything further? No, it don't appear to be. So on page 23, there's a recommendation to receive the ratings review update report. I think, Sarah, are you moving the receipt of that? Seconded by Liz. Is there any further discussion on that? Doesn't appear to be. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against, carried. And thanks very much, Sarah. I think we won't see you for the rest of the meeting.
No, I'm going back to bed now.
Yeah. Look after yourself.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. So now we will flick back to item 6 in terms of the public forum. And we have Chris Keegan, Deputy Principal of Fairfield Intermediate School. He's going to talk about the Hokanui Road bus service. So welcome, Chris. And I think you might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We can, yes, yeah.
Perfect. Sorry.
So
thanks
you've
for
got
having me.
about 5 minutes. So if you can.
That's all I need. Hey, thanks for having me. Obviously, we are starting to have quite a few concerns in regards to the bus system in our school. We're fielding a huge number of parent complaints that we're trying to encourage them to, so we can build a bit of a backstory, to contact the local bus company. But obviously, because our zone goes far north as far as Horsham's Downs Road, we have a large number of our northern students that use the bus system. So, but of course, because we are the last essentially major school on the way out to the northern part of Hamilton, by the time the buses get to us, a lot of the time they are full, and therefore the buses don't stop and carry on past. So the issues that we've had that have created for us from there, we have a teacher permanently at the Orbiter bus stop, monitoring the kids to make sure, for their own health and safety. There's about 150 that use it. But the issue that we're now having is that sometimes kids are not getting onto the bus until up till 4:15, 4:30 in the afternoon. So they're waiting there for nearly an hour and a half. And then we've now got about 70 children in the afternoon who, instead of waiting with a teacher at a supervised bus stop, are walking up to a K down the road to any other bus stop they can find as far as 5 Crossroads to try and get onto a bus. So we can't be the only school in Hamilton having this issue, and wanted to know what we need to do. I've contacted the bus company several times. Basically, they've said, suck it up. There's nothing that can be done. But there's got to be something that can be done with the amount of parent complaints and that we're having in regards to it, hopefully.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. I'll just open it up for any questions.
Yep.
I've just also had a quick discussion with Phil King, who's Director of Regional Transport Connections. So staff will also look at the matter and also come back to you, Chris, too, in terms of the matters that you've raised.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Like I said, it's more of a health and safety thing for our kids. They're crossing a number of roads now to get down to to get down to bus stops. And to be completely honest with you, they're not even getting on at those stops. So they're not actually gaining anything by walking all the way down the road. It's purely health and safety for us.
Okay, no, thank you. Eugene.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for coming along today. You probably just covered off by commenting to Phil about looking into it, but I think this is exactly what we need to be doing, is looking at where the capacity is. Not one person in here would go away from the health and safety of the children, so it's extremely important. And this is one school, 150 kids. That's incredible. So yeah, I mean, we just have to look to the timetabling and if there has to be an extra service, because those 150 kids, their parents might be having to jump in the car and pick them up, and that's just going exactly against what we're trying to do. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
And you are right there. That's what's starting to happen now is kids are calling parents at 4 o'clock. So they're leaving work frustrated and then collecting their kids to take them home. So you're exactly right.
No, thank you.
Angela.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, thanks for coming in today
No worries.
online. Yeah, good to hear from you. Could you just expand a bit, intermediate school? So just remind me again what ages the kids are?
So we have children that are as young as 10 and as old as 13. So a very young year 7 coming in would be 10 years old, and then our oldest year 8s are 13 when they leave.
Yeah. And just one other question about the teacher. So you would have a roster for the teachers out there.
Yes, we have
a
duty roster, and so part of our duty roster, obviously, we cover Hukanui Crossing, which is right by the Orbiter bus stop outside St Paul's, and then we have a teacher at the Orbiter bus stop too. The teacher waiting there till 4:30 doesn't faze them at all, but it's the kids that we're more concerned about at this stage. And to be fair, we have days where the bus stop is clear by 4:45, but we have more days than others where the kids are still waiting until well after 4 o'clock to be picked up, and we finish at 5 to 3.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. I know the spot that you're talking about quite well. Yeah, and the direction of travel for those Orbiter buses, they've picked up high school students from St John's, other schools along the way, Boys High. I bet on the days that Boys High finishes earlier, your kids can actually get on the bus a lot quicker. So on a Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, and we've also. Oh, sorry. We've also.
You go.
No, you go. You go. We've also done things like we've attempted to finish school earlier, not for the kids, but just the Orbiter kids. Where we've tried to finish them 5 to 10 minutes earlier during the afternoon, but that's just got other onsets. So we trialed that for a couple of weeks and it just didn't work. So it's not like we haven't come in and attempted to try different things, prior to coming to you guys. And thank you for actually listening to me this morning, because to be honest with you, for the last sort of 12 months, we feel like no matter what we've done, it's just been pushed to the side, and not by you, because I wasn't sure which avenue to go down. It was literally when we've been contacting GoBus directly.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for your time today. Appreciate it.
Adrian.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for your input today. I think it's always helpful to understand the challenges out in those routes out in the city. Obviously, I'm a rural person, so face a different thing. But just wanted to ask: is this just happened this year, or has it been building over time? Can you paint me a picture there a little bit?
No, it's been building over time. Our school has grown quite substantially over the last few years. Obviously, when Rotorua Junior High opened, the school had a big exodus of students. But now we seem to be winning a lot more back from that area of town, because we are what I like to call a traditional model. So all single cell classrooms, no open plan learning and things like that. So we're winning a lot more back. So we probably, to be fair, noticed it most at the start of last year. Once our roll was up around that 750 mark, we're currently now 940. So once our roll was at 750 last year, we started to notice it then. And then obviously it's just become bigger and bigger and bigger as we've kind of progressed along.
No, that's great. You've answered my question. I was sort of trying to understand the role, whether there was a change. So no, that really gives some clarity. Thank you.
No worries.
Pamela.
Thank you. Hi, Chris. It's Pamela Story here, Chair of the Waikato Regional Council. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for reaching out through that email, just raising our awareness of the issue. I suppose that through you, Mr. Chair, to me, this is just another example of where there is a breakdown in the intersect between MOE and Wakakotahi and ourselves as a provider of public transport across the Waikato region, because Eugene, I'm sure you're well aware, and also Adrian, we have these issues in other areas in our region. So if I'm correct. I do believe that there was an action through previous committee discussions to Waka Kotahi to try and facilitate a conversation with MOE. I think that that's where this conversation has to go, because right now, Chris, with respect, there's not a lot of tools that any of us have to address this. We're just left with the conflict that is put in front of us, and all of us want everybody, school children, adults, everyone in our community to be safe in their as they transport their way around our region. So, Mr. Chair, I just would like us to elevate that conversation again and ensure that it gets progressed. So,
Yeah, and like
thank you
I
for
said,
presenting, Chris.
no worries. But like I said, it's not just a Fairfield Intermediate issue. I've got a son at Boys High at the moment, and he's a decent sized unit. He's over 6 foot, and he said to me, he's year 10. He said to me the other day that the smaller kids don't even get onto the buses. They get pushed to the side. It's to a point now that I leave work and actually go and collect them. He can get onto a bus, but it's definitely not just an us problem. It's a wider area problem, and I think that's partially due to the huge growth that Hamilton North has had over the last few years.
Angela, did you ever?
So, Chair, I was just
Sarah.
wanting to clarify if we've got questions to, thank you firstly, Chris, for coming to present this morning. Chair, I was just wondering if we've got questions to staff, do we wait until later in the agenda for that at the?
I'm happy. If there's any questions, any further questions of Chris, we'll take those now. And then I'm sure Phil or staff are happy to answer any questions after that. Bearing in mind, I think we're clear on the subsequent actions that are required.
Cool.
So if there's anything further for Chris.
No, Chair, but I think you just mentioned it before. Phil will respond to Chris though around this.
Yes,
Yeah,
and obviously there'll be some discussions between, as Pamela's raised, in terms of a previous action, in terms of the Regional Council, Kotahi and Ministry of Education. Anything finally, Chris, you'd like to add in conclusion?
No, just thank you so much for your time today, and back to a Zoom meeting. It's like we're back in a couple of years ago. It's a little bit different. That's why I was on mute. Had to figure it all out again.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
Thanks very much, and also
Perfect.
thanks for the
guys.
clarity in terms of presenting.
No worries.
Very
Thank you
helpful.
so much. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Sarah, now you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So just in terms of circling back, I guess, ensuring a response, I'm wondering if we could have, we could also cite that response as members of this committee, but also we had a presenter from Girls High last time, and I haven't seen anything in that regard either. So it's just understanding, did we say to them, thanks for your presentation, and we'll look into it, or are there set actions that we're confident we can resolve these issues? It would just be good to understand at that level.
Fair request, and Phil has noted that to ensure that the responses go to the committee.
Perfect, thank you. And the other issue was, I'm concerned to hear that they kept going to GoBus. Obviously, that's fair. People don't understand necessarily the right place or channel to go to. But GoBus, why did they not come to then Regional Council and raise that there are ongoing complaints and that this is the issue to come then to the table in some way, or to be addressed? There seems to be a lack of communication from them.
Phil.
I'll follow up on that.
Okay, thank you, because I think it should be treated as just like the council receives complaints and it goes to the right place. There should be a channel that it comes through. Yeah, thank you.
Angela.
Yeah, just to follow along from what Sarah is saying. Yeah, there does seem to be a gap in information getting to the right places. And I'm just wondering, are there other issues that we're not hearing about as well, that would require our attention? So maybe just that information filtering through. I know as an elected member, often I'll get emails And the response is, yes, can you log it on Anteno, just for those official channels, but how can we escalate, things like that? So maybe some reporting of issues to this committee might be appropriate, but yeah, I'll wait for staff direction. Yeah.
Sarah, did you?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, there's nothing further on that. Oh, sorry, Jess.
That's right. I was just going to say we did follow up with the Ministry of Education and we didn't get a particularly meaningful response. The suggestion was that the committee could invite the Ministry of Education Regional Director to actually attend here and have a conversation with them direct rather than with us as a mediatory. And we can happily pass through his details to facilitate that if you
I
like.
think it's a very good idea. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, can I just ask a
Sorry.
question on, sorry, Jess, who did we have from MOE? Someone has come to a committee meeting. Tall man. Sorry, I can't recall his name. Yeah, I'm wondering if we need to take it further.
Sure.
No, I need to go.
So the engagement that you've had with the MOE was not with the regional director, it was with a member of his team or her team. If you'd like to speak directly to the director, we'll make sure that gets added to a future agenda.
Okay, no, thank you.
Just to interrupt us there. Okay, so the thing is with meeting with this director, it's not just about this, it's it's schools, students coming in from outside a region as well in their zoning. So there's quite a bit to actually understand. Form.
And sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, can I suggest that we have both the regional director for Waka Kotahi and MOE in the room at the same time? That would be helpful.
Yes. Yep. Make that happen.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll now move to item 8.2, Phil's Director's Report, which commences on page 55. Phil.
Thank you, Chair. So the aim of this report, which is the first time this report has been presented to you, is to give you general updates on relevant topics, just to make sure that you're getting a flow of information from us. So I propose to take the report as read, but maybe just make a couple of comments on a few items if that's okay. So the EV work is being presented to you here, and our aim is to bring a fuller report to you for the May meeting. We've already had an update on the regional ratings, some information on fares there. The business improvement review has already come up in our conversations this morning. We will be bringing more information to you on that. As I said at the last meeting, I have a focus in the beginning half of this year on progressing, making much more rapid progress with some of the items in that review that have not been the top of the list up until now. So we need to be bringing that to you for discussion and an opportunity to contribute. Otherwise, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'll open it up for questions or comments. Don't appear to be any. Adrian.
Just for interest's sake, just around fees, setting fees and the subsidy, you know, you always talk about fees and charges, and is there a percentage sort of target of where it's user pays versus ratepayer subsidised? Do we have a band that operates in, or is this still quite like I think the proposal's 80-20 or whatever? Do you just to give me some guidance on that? Like quite a few things have a band. Council's fees and charges.
And at a public transport network level, it does differ route by route and parts of the region by parts of the region. So there is no single number.
No. But is there a band to work within though?
The agency under the previous rules, under the public transport operating system, required us to look to identify a fare box recovery ratio. I don't have those numbers directly to hand, but there are numbers that we report against when we provide our information and our audit information to the Whakamutunga team.
Yeah.
So we're aiming for numbers that are different route by route and do report against.
And I guess on reflection, once public transport becomes more like we're in a growing phase and an adopting sort of phase, once it becomes more BAU, it might be more standardised, that there's an opportunity to sit within a range maybe, or not really?
Well, that comes down to several factors. One is that there have been significant changes to the types of fares and the fare subsidies over the last couple of years. And we're currently running to a model that will end at the end of April at the moment. So from the beginning of the new financial year, we'll through the LTP, be consulting on changes to the actual fare amounts, but within that reverting back to the situation we had prior to 2020 around fare capping and some of the other subsidies that we offer to customers. Under the Sustainable Public Transport Framework, the new SPTF, and again this may change under the new government, but the focus on fare box has changed in that space, and the ability for us to own vehicles, depots, employ staff, totally changed the way contracts operate, means that fare box becomes a very different factor in the overall story than it has been under the previous model. So a lot of uncertainty in that answer, but it's a changing space at the moment, and we'll keep up to date with how that evolves.
No, that's great, thanks. It just gives me some understanding of how it works.
Any further questions or comments of Phil? Don't appear to be any. So on page 55, there's a recommendation to receive the director's report. We have a mover and seconder. Moved by Eugene, a seconder for that. Angela. There's nothing further. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll now move to 8.3, the Huia passenger rail update. And that's on page 63 of the agenda. Phil.
Thank you, Chair. So there are several updates within this general report. We've included the December 2023 dashboard as attachment 1, and I'll be happy to take any questions on that at the right time. We introduced some new services from yesterday, and within the operations report later on in the meeting, we'll provide an update on passenger numbers on the first day of travel. There are two topics that the Regional Council has considered within the long-term plan process, and similarly to the rating review paper that you heard earlier, these were considered by Council last week. The first is around future service enhancements, and members who've been part of the Te Huia story for some time will recall an improvement plan was developed in 2021 that sought to add services as quickly as possible to grow opportunities for customers and also increase patronage. In the current situation, in terms of the trial and based on the patronage growth we have had, the adjustment to that has through the long-term plan come about that we would look to add additional services at the end of the trial period. So once the agency confirms the trial status has ended and that there's a permanent rail service in place, the LTP includes money at the same subsidy levels for service enhancements from year 4 of the plan. So that you may have some questions on that. And then the long-term plan also considered the future of the rolling stock for Te Huia, which, as is stated in the report, is 50 years old. And detailed business case work is underway to go through the right process to secure the process for the renewal of that rolling stock, probably around the end of this decade. And as a result of all of that, which is presented in the report, the Regional Council has included the topic of that rolling stock within the long-term plan for consultation over the next few months. And the opportunity on the table at the moment is to align with the Lower North Island Rail rolling stock purchase, which is being led by Greater Wellington Regional Council, and potentially be a separable portion on their procurement, which is in its first stages and will go through a shortlisted procurement exercise later in 2024. There's a general update on the 2-year review, which we have talked about previously. And the data that is in the dashboard as attachment 1 is the data that's being used for that review. We're working closely with Waka Kotahi staff to bring together the findings and the process for what happens next with that document once it's complete. And that will continue to roll out over the coming weeks and months. So we'll keep the committee informed there. Otherwise, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, no, thanks, Phil. Eugene.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the report, Phil. I won't repeat what we talked about in the workshop about really advocating strong for this train service. You look at the huge investment HCC have made with Rotorua, etc. You just don't want to see derelict buildings in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. So we really need to be a strong voice there. A couple of questions, Phil. When would we be expecting a response from the Minister or Waka Kotahi? And the other one is, if it is supported there, is that becomes a permanent, is that when is the 5 years complete? Was there a 2-year trial and then funding for 5? Yeah, so just those 2 questions.
So I might answer some of that, and I'll suggest to answer some if that's okay. Yeah. So the trial was approved for a 5-year period, and due to the late start, it means that it goes over the end of 30 June 2024 and into the next our National Land Transport Fund period. So there's a hold point that we've been required to support around a reconfirmation of the progress that's been made against the original aspirations of the work at this 2-year review point. And the agency board has asked for there to be a review undertaken ahead of the funding being reconfirmed at the current rates into the next NLTP period as part of the NLTP approval process. Notwithstanding that 5-year commitment was made by the agency board, and that's where the balance sits between the 2 things that are happening here. So we're going through a process at the moment to deliver to the agency's expectations as the majority funder in the context of a support decision that was made earlier on for continuation. In terms of your first half of your question, I'd pass to Jess to give an update on that response timeframe.
Kia ora. Yeah, so at this stage, we've just received the report from the Regional Council. We're just at the very early stages of reviewing that. So that will go to our April board, and the timing of that is really around we need a government policy statement before we can make a decision, because at this point we have no visibility of the priorities or the funding ranges that we're going to get guidance from the minister. So that needs to come in order for us to understand the availability of funding and the priorities that we've been given for the funding, before our board can then make a statutorily kind of independent decision about how that funding is allocated. So there's a lot for us to do in the next few months as we work towards that, but we're working really closely with Phil and his team.
Thanks, Jess. So the process is, it goes to the board. They on the findings of the review, that they then make a recommendation to the minister.
No, they make a decision.
Make a
So the
decision.
government policy statement will set the priorities for funding, and so each type of activity has a range of how much money is available. So rail will have a range and an amount of money that the minister says you can allocate within this of the over total bucket, and then we get to make a decision on the funding allocation within that. But the big question for us will be, what is the range the minister is going to set for interregional rail like this, and the priorities for the overall allocation, and then the board can make a decision from that.
Thanks. And then just lastly, we're advocating for funds in our LTP for a continuation. There's been an IBC done on North Waikato platforms, and just would like, that support from WRC and Waka Kotahi around the detailed business case of that, because that's stations in the north is extremely important and well needed, and there's been advocacy groups there pushing on. I don't know if Andy's still online, but he'll be well aware of the Tuakau group, etc., that have been pushing for a long time for a platform there. And also it helps future-proof the AT network anyway, because with electrification, hopefully that will continue on. Those stations in the future could be picked up by an AT network, so it's not as though they would not be used in the future. So, thank you.
Thanks, Eugene. Angela O.
Thank you. So the review, are we going to do that? Do we do the review?
That's work's been led by the regional council.
Yeah, and got budget for that?
We were not able to get significant extra budget. We were required to do that work within approved budgets as a result of an exchange of letters between the board and the regional council in the mid-2022.
Yeah, okay. And when do you expect that, or when does it have to be finished by?
Its time scope is to the end of 2023, so we're using December numbers. And as Jess says, we're working with the agency just to pull that final document together at the moment.
Okay. Just in terms, I'm on. Oh no, we're on diligence. So I'm on looking at. Oh yeah, agenda page 66 and all of the performance monitoring graphs. Under the customer satisfaction one there for financial year 23, 98% satisfaction. Not surprising. It's a great service. How many were surveyed though? I couldn't quite find that information in all of the graphs.
That satisfaction report was presented to a previous committee several meetings ago.
Would have been in there.
It's a survey that we have to undertake for bus services and rail service consistently based on a set of criteria from the agency. I think there were over 500 respondents.
All right. And I'm assuming that's the kind of detail that you'll also include in the review. We have some control over what's going in that review.
The review scope is based on the performance assessment criteria within the original business case.
Okay.
So we've got a scope of matters we have to report on, and that's form the basis. But the customer feedback and the sense of support from our passengers is very much included in that. Very much so.
Okay. And then just I guess a comment. I checked quickly on the website because I'm a bit excited about the second Saturday not being at leaving at 7 o'clock in the morning. But can we get the website updated, because there's the old timetables there and it just says scroll down for the new timetable, which seems kind of a little odd. So I'm wondering if they'll flick a switch on the website and get rid of the old timetable.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that to my attention. We've been promoting the new services, and I guess we had it set up to flip over.
Yeah.
It should have happened yesterday.
Yeah,
I'll check.
yeah,
check
because it started yesterday. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Angela S.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Phil and Jess, for your answers before. Yeah, I would also just like to endorse what Eugene was saying about, the opportunities in North Waikato for, Te Huia to service that area as well, and acknowledging the wider catchment to the east that stations there would enable that, which would in turn, help Auckland to meet their climate targets through less vehicles on the road. What we really need here is long-term vision and long-term thinking with projects like this. It's not just a here and now thing, but we need that leadership and vision of what interregional rail could look like. If we've got all the sunk costs that Eugene mentioned before, stations, rolling stock, etc. If we let this go, we'll be kicking ourselves. Our grandkids will ask us, why did this stop?
Yep.
If the fastest growing region, the Golden Triangle can't make interregional rail work, then New Zealand Inc. has a problem. So future-proof high growth councils within the Waikato, we need to show that leadership and that vision of what this train enables, housing along the Hamilton to Auckland corridor, jobs, employment, opportunity, education. I often have a wide range of people talk to me about Te Huia. It's not just anti-car people, as the rhetoric out there likes to say. It's mums and dads with kids at uni in Auckland. It's grandparents spending time with their grandkids, so their kids can get out there and earn a living in this cost of living crisis. So, Te Huia has evolved over the time. It has started as that commuter rail, but we have seen it evolve into serving such a wide range of people within our region. I'll stop there on that on that talk, but I just wanted to ask a question around the rolling stock. Part of the some of the issues that we've had with Te Huia going into the Auckland network and Auckland's reluctance to let Te Huia into further into Auckland initially was based on, it being a diesel, we can't go to Britomart, stopping at Puanui for our wheelchair users is limited because we can't deploy, the wheelchair lift in time for that stoppage time in Puanui. So they then don't have that option to get off in Puanui. They have to go to the Strand. What would the new rolling stock enable for our disabled community for greater interaction with Auckland trains, for that seamless integration into Auckland timetable, looking to that future of what the service could be with multiple trips between Waikato and Auckland each day?
That's a very good question, and the detailed business case work is defining those parameters that would be minimum requirements for any rolling stock purchase. So examples include a platform height and a train floor height that mirror each other, so there's no need for a future wheelchair hoist. A wheelchair could get on at any platform, at any door. The move away from a diesel locomotive pull to an electric unit of 4 carriages or more that would have multiple power types and would allow electric travel under the overhead lines in Auckland, but would then have battery power or some other form of power to proceed beyond the end of the Auckland network. And that's about reducing emissions. It's about improving the outcomes across a much wider range of areas. The next area of importance in that space is a train fleet that can operate to Auckland network parameters, and that's about acceleration, braking, signalling systems, processes on board that are very closely aligned with those followed by the Auckland Metro network, and that enables Te Huia to be part of the Auckland network once it's in north of Pukekohe, and can operate to the same parameters. That has a big impact and a big benefit to timetable gaps and signalling and the ability for a train to operate to closer parameters. That means that the impact on Auckland is no different to any of their other network trains. So alongside all of that is getting into central Auckland, as you say. Aspirationally the tunnel, but very much a long-term idea. The idea of us being able to operate in the same way as any other train in Auckland is the vision here.
Thank you, Phil.
Angela. Oh, I presume.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay. No further questions. There's nothing online. And there's a recommendation on page 63 to receive the Te Huia Passenger Rail Update Report. Moved by Eugene, seconded by Angela S. There's nothing further. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll now move to item 9.1. And this is on the operations update report. We have Trudy online and we also have Vincent in the room. So Trudy, would you like to introduce the report? Anything you want to bring to the members' attention, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. First, I would like to request that this report is read and received. However, I would like to touch on a couple of highlights embedded in the report. I think it's notable just to bring to your attention Q4 patronage across Hamilton City and the districts is at the best level that we've seen thus far when compared to the past 3 years with the same Q4 equivalent. I guess what we're seeing driving some of that growth is our high frequency services, the introduction of the Meteor service, particularly having some impact around where we see uplift in patronage growth within that sort of Rotorua area because of the level of service that's going through there now as well. Meteor obviously has been since August a bit of a under the microscope, but just tidbits there. Currently we're about 125% ahead of what the combined Silverdale and Frankton service had carried the same quarter the previous year. So some really good results coming through there. A couple of other things. It's been a busy 2024 thus far. We launched a new the Waipa service on the 1st of January with our new operator Transit, currently serving and providing the existing level of service. But that has all gone well with a diesel fleet currently as a transition to cover the timing of our electric fleet with an expected arrival of April. So all in all, that is going well. I think just to touch on the piece that supports those services and the delivery of the EV vehicles is the progress on the depots. Both depots are slightly delayed. However, our expected completion is mid to late March for Cambridge. Key is earlier, mid to late February. So things are coming together really well there. I've just received a couple of pictures from Key this morning with the EV chargers installed. So look, real progress happening there, which is good to see. The only other thing just to draw your attention to is we have the changes that have been introduced. You've touched on earlier with to Huia, introduction of extra 2 trips Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Hot off the press, the trips that were in addition yesterday, we've had between 35 to 40 people on each of those extra services, and as we start to move through the month, we'll take a closer look at impacts on those services, whether it's spread more across the day or whether actually it's increasing patronage, etc. But obviously we will report back next committee. And that is all I would like to share with you at this point in time, and open the floor to questions. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Trudy. Angela Rowe.
Thank you. I have 3 questions. Just on the airport flex bus, and we are going to be stopping that because of lack of usage. But the report suggests that it will sort of be parked up somewhere in a depot for a while we make our minds up on how to use it. How long will that take? I'd hate for it to be sitting in there in 6 months' time. And is there any early indications on how it will be used, whether it would be added to the night service or any early indications on that one?
I think we'll cover that in the next report. If that's
Okay, all right, thanks.
Yeah.
So Meteor service, are there any other, brilliant numbers there, fantastic numbers. Are there any other remaining outstanding issues? I guess every time we launch particularly a high frequency service, there's probably some bumps we have to iron out along the way, but I know that there were some initial concerns from residents in the area, and I think they were road surfacing issues. Have they all been resolved? Is there anything else that needs attention, or is it all tickety-boo now?
Yes, thank you, Councillor O'Leary. I think that particular issue was in reference to Aberdeen Drive. That was worked through carefully with residents. Hamilton City remedied that situation expediently, and then we quickly returned to our normal service through that drive. But otherwise, there is nothing else currently outstanding that needs addressing. We do monitor carefully and are in daily contact, as you would expect, with our operator. But no, things are bedding in well. As is with introduction of new services, we will look to consider, it has been running for that 3 months, and seek more formal feedback through our operator, etc., in terms of performance and reliability challenges, if any.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If that answers the question, thank you.
Sarah.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Trudy. So good news around the patronage being up compared to last few quarters, and in terms of the Meteor and the Comet and Orbit all looking really good. I guess my question is, the numbers for the rest of Hamilton, West and East look quite bad if we go back to comparing them to 2019. You know, like well below half in some cases what they used to be. And I guess, you know, that's a lot to do with those reduced schedules and COVID and stuff. The bus schedules are completely restored back to pre-COVID timetables now. Is that correct?
Yes, that is, Sarah. However, what we have done is we've also incorporated feedback that we've received, as well as at the time of going out to consultation for Project Refresh. There were sort of packages of feedback that we've now been able to put through into what we're delivering. You know, as of actually the 5th of February, so the beginning of this week. What does that mean? It means we've been able to add back in just over 100 weekday trips to those sort of urban services, what you're referring to there. So yeah, look, it's early days. We've listened to the public. We've tweaked the timetables accordingly. But look, we will monitor as we do. With any change, to see if, you know, there is, you know, that uplift in patronage going forward.
Okay, thank you. I mean, essentially compared to when we cut back, when Regional Council cut back the services, it's back to double that frequency for those lower frequency routes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. The other question I just had, it's something that I raised last term, and it's around the availability of the B cards. It's in some ways, you know, quite an operational matter, but it's something that residents have raised before, and I see it's noted in this report a couple of times too. Have, other than now being available at the hospital, has any work been done to increase the availability of physical cards that can be readily bought by people without having to buy them online?
In answer to that question, look, there's quite a significant investment setting up each of those retailers. I think, I know, in terms of coverage for Hamilton, we do and it looked to do more work in terms of the key hubs, because currently, yes, you know, for example, the base, Chartwell, we don't have a means there for people to access B cards readily. The other piece that we are doing, and that's around the communications and the messaging to our audience, is you know, we are promoting that online platform, and we are also sort of going out to other sort of organisations promoting that sort of journey planning, those sorts of things, get ready, you know, to travel on public transport. But we can take that away as an action, I would suggest, just to, you know, consider the level of investment, bearing in mind the national ticketing system is in the future, but what the cost of that additional investment would mean to ramp up, you know, a more accessibility within perhaps the Hamilton City region and surrounding.
Okay, thank you, Trudy, because I mean, part of the feedback was from a group of older residents, for example. Yes. They said, look, we're just struggling to actually use the platform. They couldn't get the gold card concession to work on it and things. And yeah, I guess for some people, the preference is still to just buy a physical card. There's also the issue, you know, for example, that it takes several days for a card to arrive, and then it takes time to load the money, and you get caught out and look like a dork standing on the bus wondering why your card doesn't work. So from personal experience, it can be useful to be able to physically get them. So at Chartwell, you know, do we I imagine the libraries would be happy to assist
Mm.
and there would maybe other places where the city council could be of assistance as well around a place to purchase cards. But yeah, that would be excellent, at least to have some high level thinking that the committee can consider, and we can see if there's any appetite at that point to make some recommendations. Because, sorry, the other comment, I guess, around the national ticketing system is there will still, I imagine, be a desire to have a card as well, even with that. You know, not everyone will want to use a phone or their debit card or credit card. So I guess the question would be whether anything set up, say at the base or a Chartwell Library, could then still be useful once that change happens. Thank you. Thanks heaps.
Thank you.
No further questions, Trudy?
Just one more, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Andrew?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Yeah, thanks, Sarah, for your comments. Yeah, often that removing those initial barriers to getting people to use the buses is really important. I just had a question, you know, great growth on the Comet and the Orbiter and the Meteor. I remember way back when we looked at our fast and frequent services, we had the ambition to provide one each year through the last LTP, which we got one done. I do remember that second on that list was the sort of an Orbiter audit. Could you shed some light on where that might be up to, or what next steps are for our next fast and frequent route, please?
Can I defer that to one of the team, please, in the planning?
Well, it doesn't have to be this time,
No?
but just next meeting is fine.
Oh,
We'll we'll
yes.
provide a comment on that when we get to the next paper, if that's okay.
Mm.
Great, thank you.
Sarah, did you have a?
Oh, sorry, no.
Okay, so there's nothing further. Page 70, receive the operations update report. Someone to move and second that. Thanks, Pamela. Got Sarah seconding that. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Trudy. And we'll move to the last item on the agenda, 9.2, the planning update report. Welcome, Catherine. And as part of your presentation, you would have heard Angela's question in terms of the flex service. So if you can also cover off on that too.
Thank you. Good
Thank
morning,
you.
Chair and councillors. I'll take the report as read, but I will cover off a few things that I know are of interest. The first of which being the new Tamaheri, Tofripa and Matangi service. We had the blessing for that yesterday, which a few of you were able to attend, which is really great. So thank you. That service is launching on Monday. So next Future Proof Committee will be able to provide a good summary of how the first 2 or so months have gone, which is really exciting. The airport flex is terminating end of business day today, is its last operating day. This date was chosen just due to the operational considerations, driver contracts and things like that. It was deemed to be the earliest we could decommission the service. So that all went well with conversations with the operators and drivers and whatnot. So, and worked well with the new service launching in Tamaheri, got drivers shifting over, so that's great. The new plan for on-demand is progressing. There is no solid recommendation at this point to bring to the table. The optioneering and high-level planning is continuing, taking into various considerations such as whether low-cost, low-risk Waka Kotahi funding was sought, whether planning supporting documents have already been developed for certain projects, as well as the existing for costings and ease of implementation. So there is a long list of options. It has been shortlisted. We haven't yet had the conversations with the relevant territorial authorities to have those initial conversations with them, which is what we're wanting to do next, as well as internal conversations with our operations team to see what's feasible and what's not. It could be a combination of services. We're looking at on-demand or fixed route. As we've seen, we've got a vehicle doing the Tamaheri service, utilizing a shuttle as well. So there's lots to consider, but there is no solid update at this point, unfortunately. But there will be one at the next Future-Proof Committee. Lastly, I did also want to share the findings of the Eastern District's review, which was shared with the RTC committee in December. So some of you will be familiar with it. It's just one part of the project, but it's the recommended service change to the Eastern Connector. So we are working through that internally to establish targeted consultation, as well as our communications team and operations team in terms of when this can be implemented. There's a lot on the agenda in the next 6 months operationally, particularly with the new WIPA service launch and quite a lot of Hamilton network changes. So it's just finding the right time of when we can slot, projects into the workload and systems. So yes, I will end there.
Thanks, Catherine. Open for questions. Liz.
Yeah, look, thanks for that, Catherine. I'm just interested with the Airport Flex. Has there been any pushback, any complaints made around the discontinuation of that? How have the public received it?
I haven't personally heard of any yet. I don't know if I can speak for everyone. I haven't. I'm sure I would have if there was any. Phil shaking his head, so I don't think there has been.
Okay, anything?
Oh,
Pamela.
Just a quick comment on the launch of the new service yesterday. Well done with getting that on the road, literally. And just I just really want to commend all of the partners on how we celebrate these new initiatives, how we come together, how we walk alongside Mana Whenua in terms of having a productive and positive start to these new initiatives. I think that's fantastic. I just wanted to commend the team members that were involved in that. And it was really interesting going on the little trial run with a few of the locals, because they could see such opportunity to promote their local businesses through the development of an itinerary that then allows the, I suppose, exposure to maybe those living in Hamilton to see this as a route to a new part of the region that they hadn't necessarily engaged with. And I'm just picking up on, you mentioned earlier, Sarah, I think around communications and our PT services. And but I also recognize the limitation, Eugene, that you brought up earlier about that sometimes when we're focusing on that rate increase of the LTP discussions, we sit there and scrimp and scrape and we cut away the roles that would enable us to work alongside our communities to develop those types of itineraries, those types of initiatives that are really going to drive a broader view of how people can engage with our PT services. So just wanted to put that out there. But thank you for the launch yesterday. It was fantastic.
Angela.
Yeah, just one final thing. Just to commend Waikato District Council for these trials and these initiatives. You've got such a diverse district with different needs, and it's really exciting to see you meeting each community's needs. And we're really hopeful that obviously that Waka Kotahi funding can be picked up to extend these, just from not just trials but to actual real game changers for people who live in these areas. So yeah, well done on your initiative. Thank you.
No further questions. Okay. I can take you to page 82 to receive the planning update report. Mover and seconder for that, Angela Rowe. Seconder, Adrian. There's nothing further. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Catherine. So that brings us to a conclusion of the meeting. So just thanks everyone for your input in terms of our earlier discussion and for the meeting. And I think there's certainly from the workshop some good thoughts and actions came out of that. And have a great weekend, and hopefully the weather carries on like it is. And on that note, Phil, would you like to take us to a closing karakia, please?
Thank you, Chair. Unahia, unahia mai te uru tapunui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te hininaro, I te tara takatu. Kua rā e rongo, e whakaria ake ki runga, kia tēnā, tīna, umie, huie, tākie.
Thank you. The meeting is closed. Now, lunch is arriving at 12:30. Oh, lunch is here now. So invite